Okay, so let's pick up where we left off. Right here, we made a little change. We started using templates. This is our template. And we spoke about how we can display variables and display attributes of our objects in a dynamic way inside our templates. The templates are really basic here, really basic, and there's a huge chapter on edition of the templates. I'm guessing that this will come in the future. So let's just keep on with the tutorial, okay? So there's a shortcut for the rendering system. We used this kind of rendering last time, but actually there's a much easier way to render your templates and the context inside it, where you don't have to create a template variable. The way you do it is this way. Let's copy all this. Let's go to our views, and here on the index, we'll remove the duplication imports. Actually, everything was imported already, like this, and so here what we did, this is exactly the same. The way you query your database is the same. The context is the same, but what changed is that now we are returning directly the render, and that render function will take 3 arguments here. Okay, the first one will be the request. The second one will be the HTML that you're trying to render, and in third place we have the context itself. So you see, this way is much easier than what we did before. Okay, where you had to use a method on the template item, which was this one, which called for the same template. So this is much easier. This is actually how usually it's done, with the render function straight returning the render function. Okay, and this should work just fine. So let's try it. Python manage.py. This should be working just fine. So here, this is our home as we prepared before, and here in polls, there we go. It's working just fine. This is the index. Okay, so let's keep on. Okay, we're live. So let me check if this is working fine. I'm guessing this is working fine. Okay, so here, let's save this. Let's try this again. It's working. Okay, so now, if you remember, we said that the views usually try to return either an HTML file or an HTTP friendly file, or it will raise a 404 error, right? When the page was not found. So here, it's incorporating that. So now you're gonna try in the detail view. We're going to try to find the object for that question that is requested in the request. If the ID is not found, then the question, if we don't create an exception block, and if we don't try to catch that error, the page is going to crash, right? So we can try that. We can try this in the detail. Let's create this, but we're going to remove every. I'm going to remove the try except block. I'm going to remove this, and this, and this. Okay, so what we're saying here is if a request comes in asking for the detail with a question ID, with a certain question ID, you're gonna find that question inside our database, and you're gonna return it in the polls detail. Okay, so we should have polls detail HTML first. So let's check if one gets created here. Okay, for now it's just going to express the question itself. Okay, so let's create that polls new file, detail.html, and we're gonna paste just a question there. Okay, so if we try this, it should work for the first question because we created one question, right? We have it in our database here in the questions section, which I'm not finding here. We have actually two questions, so ID1 and ID2 should work just fine. Let's check the route or on how are we going to get there. So the first thing that will happen is we're gonna get redirected from some URL that we did not create yet. So we're just gonna write and type the URL. We're going to create the path manually. Usually that doesn't happen. Usually you go through the site with and the URL gets created through where you click. So if someone tries to access the details, we have to create a path. Which path is going to be? So the path should be the detail of our ID, right? Which is going to be an integer. So in the second part of the path, you're going to be expecting an integer, and there it will be the question ID. Okay, so that is what you will be expecting on that path. And what are you going to display then? Then you're going to display from your views the detail function, right? Because from here we're going to run to the detail function, which is this one. Okay, and this detail function will expect a question ID, which we are delivering in the URL polls because we are expecting it here. And finally, we're going to give a name, which will be detail. Okay, so if we do this, we have the path that we are going to expect. We know where to go if that path is reached. So if the polls detail number 2, for example, path comes in, then we know that we are here. This gets chopped from polls because polls was found in the main URL configuration file. So this gets chopped. This doesn't match here, but it does match here. So it will go to view details. So in the view details, it gets the ID. It passes to the question object get function here, or method here, and it should render and display the question itself. So let's try it. Save everything and try it. So here, if we go to polls detail number 2, then you see number 2 works just fine. Number 1 should work just fine as well. But what happens if we put number 3 here? It will crash because the question matching query does not exist. And it makes sense because we don't have any number primary key number 3. We have only 2 items. So how can we avoid this? How can we show something more friendly to the user than a crashing site? That way is doing it like this. Okay, so we have to import first here from HTTP, import HTTP 404, and there we go. So now what will happen if we go to that site? It will try first to match the question ID with the objects that you have. And if that doesn't match, it will go then to this. It will return a 404. Okay, so here now let's try it again. So to see that everything's working fine, number 2 is working fine. But if we go to number 3, it returned a 404, a page not found. Okay, so this is what it's returning, and you can see that here. And that's the main difference. If you go to network now, you see it's a 404 status. This question does not exist. You can customize this. So now it says there's a shortcut. There's a get object or 404. So this is to save lines in your code. To save this, you can just display it like this. You can try to get the object or return a 404 no found. And this method right here, this function right here, takes two arguments. The first argument is the model for which you're looking for which object you're looking for. And the second one is the primary key. Since you're getting it dynamically here, because you're getting it from the path, then you're going to pass it to the primary key. So let's copy this and let's see if it works. Views, we're going to change all this code right here for this, like that. We had to import object. This actually comes from shortcuts. Get object 404. There we go. So like this, if we try it here, we go to detail 1, it's cool, and we go to detail 3. There you go. It's a page not found. Okay. So let's move on with this. Let's go back to detail, and we're going to change how we display information in our detail HTML. So here, detail HTML, we're going to change this, and we're going to display as well. Here you can see that we're using some code inside the HTML, which is allowed through Django templating system. And what you're going to do is for each question, you're gonna display the choices that you have. Okay, so we're going to loop through the questions, the choice set for that question, all the choice set, and you're gonna loop each one of those choices, and you're going to display it like choice text. And if you don't remember where this choice text comes from, it comes from the model right here. Choice, you have an association with the foreign key, and you have these attributes here, which the first one was choice text, and the other one was the votes. Okay, so when we go to the HTML, you're displaying actually a choice text as another list with the list item. Okay. So let's see what shows up when we do this. We go to question 2 let's go to question 1, because actually question 2 didn't have anyone. There you go. So what's new? And this is your choices. If you remember, during the tutorial, we created 3, but then we deleted the last one. Okay, so here you have 2 choices actually. Okay, removing hard-coded. Oh, this is actually very, very important. This is how you're going to create the paths inside your program. Okay, so if you remember, when we created so let's actually delete this. When we created the index, well, if you remember, the index template, sorry, you will remember that the anchor tag referred to this. This is a path that is it's like a hybrid, okay, hybrid, because you're creating something statically and something dynamically. But actually, you can create this 100% dynamically. And now here is showing how you do it. This is what we had before, okay? But there's this function here, which if you see, it's not between double curly braces. It's like the curly braces with the percentage sign. This means that this is code, and something is going to happen. You assign parameters, and then something is going to happen with this code right here. Okay. And when you use this, actually, what you're telling Django now is create a URL that looks for the detail name of the URL and assign this question ID as a parameter or as another value for that path that you created. Okay. If you see here, when we call detail, what we are referring to with this detail right here is create an URL that matches in our path this name. So if we have many paths here, for example, if I put index, it would go to the index view. Now that I put detail, it's going to go to the detail view and it's going to create this path. But where is this value coming from? Then it's going to come from, oh, sorry, here. It's going to come from here. And this is not between curly braces because it's already being taken care of inside the templating system format. Okay, so here is going to take from the question, from this question, the question ID. So this should work just fine. And if we go now to the index right here, to the index, these links should work just fine. See, that's the detail too, and it's creating the path that we wanted to create. It's first the name, the detail name, and in second place the question ID. Okay, but there's a little catch here, which is what happens if you have, for example, more than one app displaying a detail homepage. For example, imagine that you have another app that's I don't know, products, and you want to display products as well. So you might have for products like this, you may have a view that's called detail as well, or an URL that is for your, for example, like this. Sorry, it will be like this: products detail. And if you have like this product detail, actually this part would be exactly the same as another one, and as in another app, like here, for example, it will be like this. And so how does Django know that when you recall this name right here, this detail, you are referring to one app or the other? So this is solved in this way. There's a concept of namespacing. Namespacing means applying to every app that you have to assign the name of the app itself over the URL patterns. So right here in our URL patterns, we have to specify that everything that's looking for this detail path right here, it's coming from the app name polls. Okay, so here you're specifying what is the app. So when you create a path now, you're going to explicitly say, I want to see the details for the polls app. So your new URL path creator, which is this URL function right here, is going to change from details itself alone to polls details, because you want to display the views of the details for this exact app. Okay, so now here, if I use it like this, it shouldn't work. Actually, I'm not sure if it works or not. Let's try it. Let's try it out. So let's go to the index itself, not products but polls. Here, you see, it crashed because it says when it tries to display the polls template, when it tries to display this, actually what Django does, it reads through this template and tries that everything might work fine, or that everything is going to work properly. Okay, so if everything is going to work properly, then this path should lead to something, to somewhere. But if you see here, it's saying the reverse for detail is not found, because detail is not a valid view function or pattern name, which is right, because detail is not found anywhere. But if we now tell Django that, oh wait, it's not detail, it's the detail view for the polls app, which you have explicitly declared here, is the detail view for this polls app. So here now it should work just fine. Please work. There you go. So now it worked. And if we try, the path gets treated exactly the same. Nothing new gets added here. But you know that in the background, what's saying here is give me the detail view for the poll Pulse app. Okay, so that finishes the second part of the tutorial. Let's create a new video for the third part of the tutorial. Okay, let me stop this.